Much of the violence we experience in our world today comes as a result of our natural inclination to take revenge. And greater part of our suffering, our hardship in our world arises from the same natural inclination, not just to take revenge, but to pursue our selfish interests. Not long ago, my friend called me to say that there was a bit of violence in my hometown. And it started by two men in the place where they were. And one started abusing the other. And after the quarrel, after some weeks, the one who abused the other one was coming back from his shop. And as he was approaching his home, some men came out of dark and shot him dead. And those who had witnessed that he had some misunderstanding with the other man attributed his killing to that quarrel and said this man had taken revenge because he insulted and abused him. He had told him that he was a bastard. And the family of the man killed had also gone to take revenge. And the man accused had to run into exile with his own father, abandoning his own children, his own family. And because the family of the man killed is connected, they have important people in government. They brought police from Abakaliki and started arresting anyone at all that was known to have any form of interaction or relations with the family of the man accused. And the innocent ones were roped into that crisis, and they suffered for what they didn't know. They suffered hardship that arose as a result of the natural inclination to revenge. And at some point, everything quieted down as it had ended. And they went to bring the man to bury him. And after the burial that day, emotion arose again. And the family of these people mobilized to go back to the family of the man accused. They burnt down the new house he completed, and the old house, they climbed it and removed the roof, abandoning everyone to confusion, to destruction, to suffering. When we hear stories like that, we tend to begin to actually, we want to condemn. We want to say, why would they go that length? Why would they do such things? And they did this not minding that there's no concrete evidence. Yes, they had misunderstanding. Yes, the other man abused him, abused the second person. There was no concrete evidence to say, actually, the death of this man, the killing of this man, was a direct or indirect consequence of that misunderstanding. But violence erupted to satisfy that inner inclination to take revenge. And Jesus will say, do not condemn so that you will not be condemned. Do not judge so that you will not be judged. But as I tell the story, I heard some people say, because it sounded wicked, isn't it? Some of us will not make sense of it. Because we are talking about the other person. But I say it's a natural inclination. It is a consequence of who we are as natural beings. And that is why St. Paul takes the The pain of trying to make a distinction today in the second reading between the natural man and the spiritual man. The first Adam, he said, is a living being, a living soul. But the second Adam is a life-giving spirit. The first Adam is of the earth, made from the dust. The second Adam is from heaven. And he said, those, the earthly people, the earth-minded people, are like the first Adam, are the first man, the man of earth, the natural man. And the heaven-minded people, the heavenly ones, are like the man of heaven. But he also says that what came first is the natural man, and the spiritual man came after. St. Paul reminds us of who we are, that we all are descendants of Adam. And we are faithful, we are natural beings with our natural desires, with our own inclinations. And we can continue to list out the attributes of the natural man, of the man of earth. The natural man is tribalistic, always seeking for his own self-interest, and after himself to begin to extend that nature to the family members, and after the family members maybe to extended family members, and if this person is kind enough to extend it to the clan, and sometimes we limit that to the tribe. The good things of life is good only for him and those who are immediate to him. The natural man is vengeful. He wants to take revenge. It is in our nature to take revenge. If you slap me, I slap you. That is a natural justice. If you pull out my roof, I pull out your roof. That is fine. If you pluck out my eye, I pluck out your own. Even Moses sanctioned that. No one can be convicted for dispensing natural justice. Even our law, just like the Jewish laws, were made to reflect that. And that is why if you commit murder, judges will sentence you to death to satisfy that the demand for natural justice. So it is in our nature. It is our nature to love those who love us. It is our nature to hate those who hate us. It is in our nature to pray that it will not be well with those our enemies. It is in our nature to seek for our own good. You can name them. So that in our community, when we experience what we experience, we should be comfortable with the fact that this happens because of who we are. And there is no point pointing the other as being the problem. The problem comes from one of us because what is happening among us reflects who we truly are. Children of the natural man, children of Adam. We all inherited that. So do not judge, do not condemn, so that we will not be condemned, because all of us stand in the same place. All of us are in the same boat. It is not the other one. Just like in the wild, in the natural wild, when you go there, lion is chasing the other animal to catch, to kill, to eat. You can't blame the lion. It is in his nature. When he is hungry to attack the other, he has not committed any sin. Because if he feels, he reacts according to his nature, according to his nature. The same way, when things come to us, the first reaction, the first force, the first energy that is excited, that is activated in us, is the natural energy. And we respond. Sometimes it comes impulsively. We respond to that. So the other one is not responsible. We all are responsible. Do not judge so that you will not be judged. And we see every now and then how our natural ability, our natural inclinations, even interface in our attempt to practice spirituality, in attempt to express our faith, in attempt to worship God. And in our own time, we have many enemies, real and imagined. And when we come to pray, we direct all kinds of force, all kinds of fire, all kinds of animosity against them. Even when Jesus said, pray for your enemies, not pray against them. We are true to ourselves. And who we are manifests in what we do, even in our own engagement with God and in our own interactions with others. We are natural people. The man, the woman of earth. The man or woman that made from the dust. And we must accept that. We must come to recognize that. And we must acknowledge that we are natural people. And this is common. This is natural to us. So when there is a tribalism, when people push for themselves alone, when I push for myself alone, you should understand where it's coming from. And also you should question yourself, in what way are you pushing your own agenda to satisfy your own natural inclination? That is who we are. But St. Paul didn't end there. He went ahead to say, after listening the differences, just like we resemble the man from earth, so shall we bear the likeness of the man from heaven. And that is our Christian vocation. That is what makes the difference. That is the higher calling. That we are natural beings, but we have been called and given the opportunity and the privilege and the natural equipment to become spiritual beings, to become a man of heaven, to become a woman of heaven. But we must understand that begins from being natural, from being authentic to our nature, from being the understanding, for showing understanding to ourselves, to others, to embrace what God has originally made us to be, natural being. Remember, St. Paul tells us, the spiritual being didn't come first, is the natural. Our spiritual nature came first, or comes first, before the natural nature is added to that. Our Christian vocation is to add a spiritual nature, on our own natural nature. So when Jesus tells us, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, and pray for those who maltreat you. Love your enemies. He repeated that twice. Do good. Jesus was saying what he fully understood, that is counter-natural. It is not how we do things. It is a law against the natural laws. Jesus was offering us spiritual law. Do good to the one who hurts you. And I'm sure as you are listening to the reading, as you are listening to Jesus say this, somehow something within you, if you are honest and you have done self-examination, something within you is reacting, is somehow resisting, because this is not who we are. And don't be angry with that. Don't be angry with yourself because of that. Because you are being true to yourself. Jesus is telling you to become what you are not. And that is why it is not easy. It is not easy to forgive, to become compassionate, even though there is reason for us to become compassionate. Compassionate means to feel with the other. I know that I can derail, the other person can derail. So when this person derails, I have the same, a kind understanding, given the fact that I'm also prone to derailment. But that is not who we are. Jesus is asking us to do something extraordinary. And sometimes in our own practice of faith, because of what we've heard, many of us tend to deny our nature. Many of us tend to try to, pretend that we are not who we are. Many of us tend to try not to acknowledge the fact that we are sinful beings. What we have inherited from Adam is always with us. But that is the place to begin. St. Paul tells us that comes first. And that is why many of us struggle with forgiveness, because we have misunderstanding of what it means. And it's because the church, we hear every day, Jesus, forgive. We are struggling to forgive, because we have not acknowledged that that resistance to forgiveness is according to our nature. And that is why someone offends me and I say that forgiving this person, tomorrow I remember that what the person has done, and it comes back alive to me, and I begin to feel the urge to go to revenge. Forgiveness in this sense means each time you remember and feel pain, it is natural. But each time you are called not to take revenge. That you are forgiving somebody does not mean you will not remember what the person did. And that you are forgiving somebody does not mean that when you remember what the person did, you will not feel the same way you felt initially. It is that constant decision that no matter how many times I feel this pain, I'm not going to revenge. That is forgiveness. So we must understand our nature to be able to understand what Jesus is asking us to do. It is in our nature to do that. So Jesus is asking us to do something that is not natural. It is a challenge. It is a challenge to us because it is contrary to our nature. It demands grace. It demands God's grace. So we need to understand this. To be real, we must acknowledge who we are. But St. Irenaeus have told us that grace builds on nature. So if you are not natural, if you are not authentic to your nature, then you are not disposed to receive God's grace. God has understood us. God knows what He made. And God assists us by His being present to us. God's grace. To equip us to be able to go beyond, to respond to this higher call. That without God's grace, we cannot forgive. That without God's grace, we slap twice to the one who slaps us once. Without God's grace, this spouse who has been unfaithful and have caught him or her to be unfaithful, must be thrown out at all costs. It requires God's grace to be able to do this. But we are natural beings. And the church tells us today that it is possible. Even though we are natural beings and our tendency is to retaliate, our tendency is to love those who love us, our tendency is to pray against those who come after us. You know, those kind of things you see in a prayer. God, I want you to slap this woman because she has been disturbing me. I want you to flog this one. When you pray like that, you are being true to your nature. You are beginning at the basics. And that is why an ordinary prayer will say, oh God, bless those who love us. And those who do not love us, may you turn their heart. And if you do not want to turn their heart, turn their ankles so that you recognize them by their name plate. The same type of prayer. We want God to send fire to destroy this woman or this man because we have determined, real or imagined, that this man is a problem to us. It is manifestation of who we are, natural beings. But we are natural beings called, given a higher calling. And our nature is built in such a way that it becomes a receptacle of God's grace, able to use God's grace to transcend our natural inclination. And that is what Jesus is presenting to us. And the church, by giving us the first reading today, tells us it's possible. David did it. Because David Saul was after his life. He ran into exile. And they chased him to the land of exile. And he ran into the desert of the land of exile. And they chased him into the land, the desert. And in the process, they fell asleep. And David and his man came into the camp. This is the man who was after his life, the man who had planned to eliminate and destroy him. And he had the opportunity to slaughter him. And he told his servant, we are not going to do this because this man is God's anointed. Woe betide me to raise my hand against the man of God. Woe betide me to raise my hand against the man or woman who is the image of God. Woe betide me to try to take my own pound of flesh from God himself. Because that is what it means to attack the child of God. Anyone with the image of God, and that is who we are. Natural beings, but have been endowed with the image of God. And David resisted the urge and transcended his natural inclination. So by presenting this reading, the church is telling us this human being did it. A natural man like us did it. And we can move away from how many thousand years, centuries before now, to our own century. To begin to talk about people like Mahatma Gandhi, people like Martin Luther King Jr., people like Mandela, Pope John Paul II, now St. John Paul II, and many others around us that we have witnessed, who have been able to resist the urge to respond to the natural drive, but to transcend to the higher calling. These are examples to show us it is possible. It is possible to do this. It is possible to go beyond ourselves. Not to start with ourselves and end with ourselves. It is possible for us to transcend. It is possible for us to become spiritual beings. In fact, our Christian vocation is to move from becoming natural beings, from being natural beings to becoming spiritual men and women, the people of heaven. We can do it. If all these people did it, we can do it if we cooperate with the grace of God.